And now, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of Paul Revere's Ride, I give you Paul Revere's Ride by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in 75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend in the British March, by land or sea, for the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light. One, if by land, and two, if by sea, and I, the opposite shore, will be ready to ride and spread the alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, to the country folk to be armed to arm. Then he said good night, and with muffled oar silently rowed to the Charlestown shore. Just as the moon rose over the bay, where swinging wide at her moorings lay the Somerset, British man of war, a phantom ship with each mast and spar across the moon like a prison bar, and a huge black hulk that was magnified by its own reflection in the tide. Meanwhile, his friend through alley and street watches and wanders with eager ears. Still, in the silence around him, he hears the muster men at the barrack door, the sound of arms and the tramp of feet, and the measured tread of the grenadiers marching down to the boats by the shore. And he climbed the tower of the church of the wooden stairs with stealthy tread to the belfry chamber overhead, and started the patrons from their perch with the somber rafters around him made masses of moving shapes of shade, with the trembling ladder steep and tall to the highest window in the water, paused and listened and looked down a moment on the roofs of the town, and the moonlight flowing over all. Beneath in the churchyard lay the dead in their night encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence so deep and still that he could hear like a sentinel's tread the watchful night wind as it went creeping along from tent to tent and seeming to whisper, all is well. A moment only feels the spell of the place and the hour and the secret dread of the lonely belfry and the dead. For suddenly all his thoughts are bent on shadowy something far away, the river wide and sweet the bay, a line of black that bends above the rising tide like a bridge of boats. Meanwhile, impatient of mountain ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse aside, now gazed at the landscape far and near. Then impetuous scamped the earth, and turned and tightened his saddle girth, but only watched with eager search the belfry tower and the old church as it rose above, with rays on the hill, lonely and spectral and somber and still. And lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer and then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle and bridle he turns, lingers and gazes top on his sight. A second lamp in the belfry burns. Hurrying approves in the village street, a shape in the moonlight, a book in the dark. Underneath, from the shadows, and passing a spark struck out by its deep and flies fearless and fleet. That was all. Yet, through the gloom and the night, the fate of a nation was riding that night. And the spark struck out by that steed in his flight, kindled the land into flame with its heat. He has left the village and mounted the steep. Beneath him, tranquil and broad and deep, is the mystic meeting the ocean tides. And under the alders, its village edge, now soft on the sand, now loud on the ledge, is heard the tramp of the sea as he rides. It was 12 by the village clock when he crossed the bridge into Medford town. He heard the crowing of the cock and the barking of the farmer's dog, and felt the damp of the river fog that rises when the sun goes down. It was 1 by the village clock when he galloped into Lexington. He saw the gilded weathercock swim in the moonlight as he passed, and the meeting house windows blinked and bare gaze at him with the spectral glare, as if they already stood aghast at the bloody work they would look upon. It was 2 by the village clock when he galloped into Concord town. He heard the bleating of the flock and the twitter of birds among the trees, and felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing over the meadows brown. And one was safe and asleep in his bed, who at the bridge would be first to fall, who that day would be lying dead, pierced by a British musket ball. You know the rest in the books you read. The British regulars fired and fled, and the farmers gave them ball for ball behind each fence and farmyard wall. Chasing the rabbit coats down happy 250th anniversary of Paul Revere, and may freedom reign! Farewell.